Well, today we're going to be learning about physics. We're going to be talking about forces in physics. A force is a push or a pull movement on an object. This object acts and behaves differently based on types of forces. There are two types. There's long range and there is contact. For long range, you have gravitational, magnetic, and electrical. Before contact, you have applied, spring, drag, frictional, normal, and tension. Both of these have subscripts. Gravity will always be present unless noted about. So on Earth, there will always be gravity, but on Mars, you'll be notified that you're on Mars. Gravity and electrical have little molecular bonds that hold together, like a magnet and a power in the power line. Applied is when an outside object is applied in change in its behavior. Spring is a push when compressed and a pull when it's stretched. Drag opposes or resists movement. It doesn't like movement at all. Normal force is exerted off an object that it is touching. Tension is when an object is being pulled toward an object. Now, in physics, we have things called free body diagrams, or FBDs. An FBD is represented by the force of one object. To solve one, you need to find the object. For instance, we'll talk about an elevator. Now, an elevator will be represented by a square. Now, this square has two forces acting upon it, one acting up and one acting down. Now, the force acting up would be the force of tension, because the elevator is being held up with a chain. Now, you also have force of gravity. Force of gravity would be also pointing down. Another example would be a book laying on a table. You would have a book on the table with two forces, the force of normal force, the force of gravity. Now, we have friction forces. There are two types of friction forces. You have static and kinetic. Static prevents the movement of an object from sliding, and kinetic is the movement of an object sliding. So, a truck is moving to the right with a loaded box in the back. Now, this box could be loaded with apples, pears, banana, peaches, whatever you want it to be. Now, there would be three forces acting upon it, because the truck is moving and the box is moving, but the box itself isn't physically moving. So it would be static friction because you have the box in the pickup truck, you have the force of normal force because of the bed of the pickup truck, force of gravity, and you have the force of friction, of static friction, F of S. Now, we also have an example of kinetic friction. You have a book that is being pushed across the table. Now, this book has four forces acting upon it. The force of normal force, force of gravity, force of friction, and the force of applied force. It's kinetic because the book is being pushed across the table. So, that's all about forces in Physics 1.